Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, World of Blitz, and in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at all of the changes that are coming into Tier 10, Tier 9, and Tier 8 for World of Tanks Blitz. As many of you know, I personally do not agree with Wargaming mass balancing the tiers. Mainly because of the fact I think Wargaming does a poor job. They overbuff tanks. You know, in the previous mass rebalance, Wargaming overbuffed the Bosch Ation 25-ton, and they overbuffed the WZ-113 GFT to a point where they are completely overpowered and dominate the game. I don't like that. I like to see balanced matchmaking, balanced vehicles. And the best way to do that is slowly nerfing and buffing tanks that need changes. So nerf the WZ, nerf the Batchat, buff the CS63, buff the WZ-132-1, and leave the tanks that are currently in the middle the way they are. That's how I see it personally. But obviously, that's my point of view, so let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm going to be breaking into all the changes, letting you know my personal feelings and opinions on them, if I agree or I disagree. There's quite a few. This video is probably going to be 20-30 minutes, but let's get straight into it, make our way over to display capture, and talk about the changes. Starting off, we have the WZ-113. It's gaining 100 hit points. I agree with this. I think the 113 is a little weak, especially in the current meta with how quick battles are going. I'm glad to see that Wargaming is slightly buffing the 113. Not much else is happening to it, so I guess that's a good thing. I'm not going to complain. Type 59 is going from 100 millimeters on its upper plate to 112. It's gaining 70 hit points. Its reload is getting half a second faster, and it's getting adaptive concealment. All of those changes are massive buffs to the tank. It's going to be more flexible, stronger on the ridgeline, it's going to have more hit points, and it's going to have a mechanic that allows it to be insane. I think if I'm not mistaken, this will be the first Tier 8 with adaptive concealment, and I think this is going to make the Type 59 one of the strongest Tier 8 in the game. So if you have the vehicle, I would highly recommend to mess around with it in the next changes when Wargaming does release these balances, because I think the tank's going to be an absolute beast. I'm actually really excited to see how it plays. I don't think it's going to be overpowered, but I do think it's going to be really strong, which is good, because the Type 59 definitely is a little bit behind the rest in terms of capabilities right now, just from power creep. The 121B is gaining 10 millimeters on its upper plate. It's gaining 50 horsepower, or 50 HP and 25 horsepower, and its turret's going from 240 to 252. So basically, Wargaming's just making the 121B much stronger. I already think the 121B is strong, so this might overcook the vehicle a little bit. I mean, it really might overcook it because, as I said, the 121B is already really strong. So I don't know if I agree with these changes. Personally, I would just keep the tank the way it is. It already has adaptive concealment. It already has decent heat pen with the Cali changes. It's got really good DPM and everything. I think that these are going to make it a little bit too strong, but that's my personal opinion. I guess we'll have to see. I don't think it's going to make it completely overpowered, but it is definitely going to make it quite a strong vehicle. The Chinese Light, the WZ-132-1, is getting quite a few buffs. Its reverse speed is becoming 4 faster. The vehicle is gaining 10 meters of view range. It's gaining half a second on the reload, or in other words, it's gaining DPM. The vehicle is losing a teeny bit of dispersion, or gaining, I guess. It's going to be less accurate on move. The vehicle is losing 5 millimeters of AP pen. It's losing 2 millimeters of heat, 5 millimeters of high explosive, but gaining gear oil. So what can I say about these changes? Well, it's getting more damage per minute. It's getting more view range, and it's getting more reverse speed, plus gear oil. So technically, it's getting 7 or 8 kilometers per hour buff on its reverse, which is insane. It's going to allow it to be incredibly flexible. The DPM buff is going to be nice, and overall, this is just a big buff to the tank. I mean, sure, it's losing a little bit of AP and heat pen, but it's not enough to really change its tank's capabilities. And the only other nerf is a slight on-movement dispersion nerf, but it's not going to matter. In general, I think these changes are huge. They're going to allow the 132-1 to be absolutely incredible. And I'm really excited to mess around with the tank. So this is something I approve of. Personally, I still would like to see the tank at 7 degrees of gun depression, but I don't think Wargaming will ever do that. The 5A is basically not changing at all. It's getting 50 hit points, it's gaining a little bit of traverse speed, its dispersion is getting slightly better, and it is losing 25 horsepower. So in general, the tank's staying exactly the same. I don't really know why Wargaming can't just give the 5A better heat pen, but oh well. The 114 SP2 is gaining 10 millimeters of armor on the front and on the sides. I find it really goofy that Wargaming is basically reverting some of the changes they've already done. They buffed calibrated shells, and they nerfed enhanced armor, and then they're buffing the 114 to basically what it was before. So kind of goofy. The 114 really needed either more gun depression or much better dispersion on move and base dispersion, which Wargaming is not doing. I think the armor buff is going to be nice, but I don't think it's going to be enough. The tank is still incredibly mediocre. We're not really going to talk too much about the BZ-176 just because the tank isn't released, but if you want to pause the video and take a look, those are the changes. TVP 5051 is going to be getting 0.6 seconds added on to the clip reload, so it's losing a bit of DPM, but it's gaining 10 alpha per shot, so it's also gaining a bit of DPM. In general, it's a net even, but not too much is changing on the TVP, which is fine with me. I don't want Wargaming to mess around with that tank. Bad news for Progetto enjoyers. The tank's getting absolutely nerfed, like completely. The vehicle is losing 2 kilometers per hour top speed. It is gaining 100 hit points, which is nice, and it's getting a bit better dispersion, but the reload is going from 8 seconds to 9, 6 seconds to 7, and the first shell is going from 5 to 5. But it's 5 seconds, that's the last shell. So basically, they're making it so now you lose DPM when you dump the clip. That sucks. That really sucks. It used to be you gained DPM. It was the last reverse auto reloader in tier 10, and they are taking that away, which is really disappointing. Not only that, but the vehicle is losing a degree of gun depression, and combat stabilization is being added. Combat stabilization is one of my least favorite special abilities in the game because it comes with a downside. When you're below 15 kilometers per hour, it's great. Your tank doesn't bloom at all. The gun's incredibly accurate. The moment you go above 15 kilometers per hour, the gun goes zoop and massively blooms. Putting that on the Progetto, especially because it reverses at like 23, it's going to absolutely ruin the tank. I think combat stabilization took away a lot of the E6's capabilities, and I really think it's going to take away a lot of the Progetto's capabilities. So congrats, Wargaming. I think you have ruined what was a pretty well-balanced tank, one of my favorite mediums. I really think that this is going to ruin a lot of its capabilities. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I'm not happy about those changes. Died a little bit coughing there. We're back. Now we have the Caro 45 ton, which is gaining 50 hit points, which I guess is cool, but it's losing quite a bit of DPM. It's going from 8 seconds on the second shell to 8.5, 6.5 seconds to 7.5, and then the base shell is staying at 5. So essentially, the Caro 45 ton is going to keep the same 2850 DPM if you're shooting it on single shot with the fastest reload. If you dump into the clip, though, you are losing DPM. I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest. I think the Caro right now is definitely a bit too strong. I think especially in the average player's hands, the fact that you can just nuke somebody is a little cringe, especially for the level of DPM it features. So I am a little happy that Wargaming is taking away a bit of its DPM, but also keeping it the same if you're shooting it on single shot. It's losing a degree of gun depression, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's getting gunpowder and gear oil. So I guess that's cool. I mean, I'm not going to care about gunpowder. Gear oil will be nice. Having that extra reverse speed and power to weight will be good. Minus 10 on the APCR, oof. I don't love that. I really don't. That's going to make this tank a lot less effective on its premium pen. It's going from 326 to 316. To be fair, that's still good premium pen for a medium, but it is a bit disappointing to see Wargaming take that away. It was one of my favorite parts of the tank. Overall, I don't fully hate the changes that Wargaming's doing to the Caro. I know that some people are going to be bummed out, but I am personally a strong believer that auto-reloaders and auto-loaders currently dominate the meta, and they make the games way too fast, so Wargaming nerfing a bit of their capabilities is not that bad of an idea. The Semovente Contra Caro 64 is losing 20 millimeters of turn armor and about 20 millimeters of hull armor. That's good. I know there's going to be people bummed and they're going to say, oh, the only reason they're doing this is because of the Vipera. No, it's not the reason they're doing this. The Semovente is completely overpowered. It's probably one of the most overpowered tier 8s Wargaming has ever released. I'm glad they're nerfing it. It needs a nerf. And it's not like it's ruining the tank. It's still going to have really good armor. And even though the tank is gaining a second on its reload, it still doesn't matter. It's going to have like 2600 DPM. It still features adrenaline. It's still going to be a really strong vehicle. I'm also really happy that they are nerfing the module damage of the 120mm. I did a video where I ammo racked 3 people in a row with this tank because of the fact the module damage for some reason is so freaking high. So I think that these are all really good changes for the Semovente. I'm not going to complain. The Renat Tramante is gaining 50 hit points, and it's also getting a teeny bit better dispersion, so that's pretty good. The 60 TP is losing a degree of reverse speed. It is losing 2 degrees of traverse speed, but it's gaining 5 millimeters of heat pen and 10 on its horsepower. I think this is a buff overall because the tank has gear oil, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, even with losing 1 reverse, it's still going to go 20 in reverse, which is crazy. And its traverse speed isn't that big of a deal. It's a haul down heavy, and you don't need traverse in a heavy, so it's not that big of a change. The heat pen and the horsepower is going to be bigger, especially the heat pen. That's going to be really nice. The CS63, this is a tank that we all have our fingers crossed on, hoping that Wargaming gives it a big buff. Well, what's happening? The CS is gaining 2 kilometers per hour in top speed. It's losing 3 in traverse. Why? I don't know. The dispersion is getting a little bit better. The reload is getting a little bit better. And the tank is also getting adaptive concealment with an additional 64 horsepower. It's a good start. I don't think that these changes are going to be enough to make it still unique. I think I'd rather choose an M48 Patton any day of the week. But the changes are still going to allow the CS63 to be a little bit more effective. And I think that it will be at least a somewhat solid medium. The DPM buff will be nice. The dispersion increase will be good. The adaptive concealment is going to allow it to be really good. And the increase in top speed and horsepower is going to make it really solid in mobility. So it's all right. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to be the best medium ever, but I think they're doing a good job on not over buffing it and making it pretty balanced. The Stritz Von K is gaining a degree of traverse speed. The aiming time is getting worse, though, which is really annoying because the tank already has adaptive, or not adaptive concealment, it has combat stabilization, which ruins it already. So getting even worse aiming time is really going to suck. The AP pen is getting better, though, which is nice. The APCR pen is getting better, which is nice, and it's losing 25 horsepower. In general, the tank's getting buffed and nerfed. I like the pen buffs, but I really don't agree with the aiming time. If anything, the aiming time should be getting buffed, not nerfed. But that's my personal view. The AMX 50B is getting a nerf to its aiming time of 0.3 seconds. That's good. I think the 50B is way too strong in its current state. I would like to see just reactive removed from the vehicle, but I don't think Wargaming is going to do that. But at least it's going to be a little bit less accurate on the move. Apart from that, nothing else is changing. The AMX 30B is losing some of its damage per minute. It's gaining spall liner. Who cares? It's not like you ever get high explosive penned. It's losing 47 horsepower, and it's getting the aiming consumable, which is reticle calibration. So just getting a nerf, really. I don't know why they're nerfing it. The 30B was so good. It was one of the best freaking mediums in the game. It wasn't overpowered. It was just a strong medium, and now they're nerfing it. Why? Why, Wargaming? Why do you do this? It was so good, and now you're nerfing it again. I'm so pissed. I'm really pissed. Especially because they nerfed the turret armor when they buffed the DPM, and now they're just nerfing the DPM without buffing the turret armor back. So they just did the old switcheroo and made it worse than it was originally. Great job! I'm really pissed about that, to be honest. I mean, wow. And they're nerfing its horsepower. Like, really? All of that for spall liner. Pissed. Not a good change. That's all I'm going to say. I'm really mad about the 30B changes. The AMX M454 is getting 10 millimeters extra to its upper plate. I guess that's all right. It's gaining a little bit of DPM, and it's getting reactive. Yeah, okay, Wargaming. Let's think about that for a second. The AMX M4 has 2,800 hit points with double sandbag, and it already has 2,600 DPM, and it already has really good armor and mobility, and now you're giving it reactive. Really? Really? That's the best decision you can come up with. Reactive, which has 27% reduced damage. Yeah, the AMX M4 is going to be easily one of the most overpowered tier 10s in the game. I can tell you just looking at it, it's going to be overpowered. How do you increase the DPM, increase its armor, and give it reactive and think that's a good idea? Completely overpowered next update. That's a fact if they go through with those changes. The SCM 50 ton is getting 20 millimeters of armor, 10 millimeters on the turret, 20 millimeters on the turret cheeks. It's gaining DPM, getting super seed boost, and sandbags. Might actually be a strong tank, but I still won't play it, so that's all I'm going to say about the E50T. Oh boy, here we go. Great job, Wargaming. Let's make an already super strong medium even stronger. The E50M side armor is getting buffed by 15 millimeters. Why? I don't know. The turret sides are getting buffed from 105 to 114. Why? I don't know. It's gaining DPM. Its shell velocity is losing a bit, but who cares? It's getting reactive. Why? Why? Why are you doing this? Why? The E50M is already one of the strongest mediums in tier 10. It already has incredible mobility. It already has good DPM. It already has good accuracy and armor. And you're giving it reactive? What the frick? Just absolute brain rot decision making from Wargaming here. Brain rot. I'm sorry, but if you go through with these changes, you're going to hear a lot of complaining from players like me because this is really stupid. You're telling me not only am I going to have to deal with 40% E50M players YOLOing me, but now you're giving it more DPM and reactive? Yeah, that's a really good combination, guys. Whoa. Can't wait for that. That's going to be real fun to deal with. Just leave the E50M the way it is. It's already strong enough. The VK90 is losing 2 degrees of traverse. It's getting slightly better aiming time, and its turret traverse dispersion is getting slightly worse. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of getting nerfed. I don't know. It's not really changing. That's really all there is to say. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, it's getting better aiming time, but it's getting worse on movement dispersion, so I don't really think too much is going to happen there. Kampf Panzer 50 ton is getting slightly better aiming time, losing 8mm on the heat and 3mm on the HE. So it's kind of just being reverted to back what it was before the calibrated buff. So, okay, I guess. It's still going to be strong. Not much else to really say about the Kampf Panzer. It's just a useless change. Leopard 1 is getting 2 km/h buffed on its traverse speed. It's getting 50 more hit points. It's losing 4 degrees of traverse speed. It's losing another degree of gun depression. So it went from 8 degrees and now it's going to 7. Why? I don't know. The reload is getting worse. The tank is going to be getting adaptive concealment, which is cool. So much for a unique ability, you know? Like, adaptive concealment was really unique. It was only on the Chinese tanks. And now Wargaming's just saying, nah, we're going to give it to every vehicle. Let's give it to the CS. Let's give it to the Leopard 1. Why? I don't know. It just takes away the uniqueness of a tank's ability. Overall, I think that these changes are going to make the Leopard even stronger than it was before. Yes, I know it's losing a teeny bit of DPM. Does not matter. The fact that the vehicle is going to now reverse at like 30 plus km/h and it gets the frickin' adaptive concealment ability, that's going to be insane. So I think it's going to be really good there. I don't know why they're taking a degree of its gun depression away. Personally, I think the Leopard 1 currently is really strong and should not be changed. That's what I'm going to say. And this is just a classic example of Wargaming reworking a tank for no reason that doesn't need to be reworked. Whoa! Thanks, Wargaming. Mouse is gaining more DPM, and its turret on movement dispersion is getting worse. So, yeah, that sucks. It already has some of the worst on movement dispersion in the game. So let's keep giving it more DPM and not just give it a better gun. Really disappointed with the mouse changes. VK72 is getting PBR. It's getting an additional second added onto the reload, taking away a huge DPM amount. Its dispersion is getting better, and the vehicle is losing 4mm of pen on the shells. Huh? So basically, not much is happening to the VK. Now, to what I'm aware, apparently it's losing a lot of armor, which we'll have to take a look at later, but the tank still looks pretty strong, if you ask me. Wow, I just took a sneak peek at the Type 71 changes, and I want to end my life. Type 71 is losing a slight bit of DPM. However, it's gaining more pen. The vehicle already has like 350 frickin' millimeters of AP pen. Let's give it more. Why not? So it's getting 3 more millimeters of standard pen, 5 more on the premium. Oh yeah, and it's getting 40 premium alpha. Extra. What? What are we talking about here, Wargaming? What are we talking about? Let's make our way over to Blitz really quickly. I need to take a look at the Type 71. I need to see what is exactly happening, because I need to look at the current values of this tank. Wow. All right, let's take a look. So first of all, it's getting 5mm more pen. So it's going to have over 360mm of pen. And the premium alpha, if it's gaining 40, is going to be 400. That means you're only going to lose 20 when loading gold. What the hell? I don't get it. I really don't get it. Well, have fun dealing with the Type 71 next update. The STB is gaining 3 km/h top speed, so it's going from 53 to 56. Its reload time is getting a little bit worse, and it's losing velocity on the premium and standard AP. Its HE is losing velocity, and it's losing a bit of horsepower. So, it is getting a nerf, but not a nerf that it deserves. What the type or the STB should have gotten is just slightly worse turret armor, maybe a bigger hatch. That's all that really needed to happen. Instead, they're making its reload a bit worse, which I guess is fine, and they're lowering its shell velocity. I don't know. Also, what they could have done is they could have made it so loading gold gives you less premium pen and less damage per shot, but that's how I see it. STB is still going to be an absolute beast, so if you were worried about it losing its capabilities, I don't really think it's going to. We arrive to Britain. We have the FE2 and 5B. It's getting PBR. Armor changes. We'll have to see what. It's gaining 50 hit points, 5 meters of view range, and it is getting worse aiming time. So that's a bit of a shame, I guess. We'll have to see what actually happens to the armor changes, but its DPM is staying the same, and not much else is really happening, so oh well. Tortoise is getting PBR. The FE2 and 5B 183 is getting better dispersion. Wow. Okay, Wargaming. It already has 0.346, so might as well make it 0.3, right? Might as well buff its dispersion. Wow. I'm speechless. I'm actually speechless. Whoever decided to buff the 183's dispersion literally needs to be fired. I'm going to tell you right now. Whoever decided that, whoever said, yo guys, we should buff it, quit the company. The tank is losing a bit of its aiming time. Oh no, it doesn't really matter. If you sit still and you let it fully aim in, you're going to be accurate, which makes no sense. And it's losing a bit of shell velocity. Who cares? That doesn't really mean anything. Wow, 183 is getting even better dispersion. Okay. The FE4202 is getting more hit points. It's gaining a bit of dispersion on traverse for the heat gun. Its aiming time for the heat gun is getting slightly better, and the APCR rounds on the heat gun is losing a bit of pen. So, in other words, nothing's changing. It's getting an extra 50 hit points. Who would run the heat gun on the 4202? You run the Hesh gun. So, oh well. Conway's getting PBR. Okay, so not too much of a change there. Chieftain Mark 6. Wargaming is completely reworking the tank for no reason, so if you enjoyed the Chieftain in its current state, bye-bye. Let's take a look at what they're doing. It's losing 4 degrees of traverse speed. Its dispersion is getting slightly worse on move. Its aiming time is getting half a second worse. Its APCR is getting replaced with Hesh. It's going to have 200 millimeters of pen and 470 alpha. Its velocity is remaining unchanged, so does that mean it's going to have ridiculously good velocity? I don't know. It's getting a splash radius, minus 5 millimeters of AP pen. It's getting tungsten and gear oil. Now, don't get me wrong. The Chieftain looks exciting. I am very excited to try out the Chieftain Mark 6 with these changes. But I'm gonna come real close to my mic here. Wargaming, if you're listening, or if any of the CCs are listening to what I'm saying right now, maybe, just maybe, if you used your tiny little peanut-sized brain, instead of changing the Chieftain, a tank that everybody loves right now for its capabilities, maybe, just maybe, how about instead we give it a second gun option where if you want to use the Hesh, you can. But for people that want to stick with the APCR premium and better accuracy, they also can. That way, you have 2 of the best options. Instead of saying, hey, did you enjoy the current Chieftain? Well, screw you! You're not allowed to enjoy it anymore. I'm so pissed with Wargaming right now, because the Chieftain is one of my favorite tanks, and I've made so many videos saying why it has the best frickin' gun in the game. They're ruining it. They're absolutely ruining the tank. Wow. Wow. I'm pissed. I'm actually frickin' pissed. Good job, Wargaming. Anything else you want to ruin, anything else you want to just strip the fun away from, go ahead. I'll wait. This is just, I don't even care if it's good. I don't care if the Chieftain's fun. I love the current Chieftain. I love the current gun it has. It's my favorite gun in tier 10. And you're just ruining it. It's gone. It's not going to have that gun anymore. So, yeah, wow. It might be strong. I'm not going to say that this isn't capable. But just why? Why don't you give 2 gun options? It's not that hard. If you have a brain, you're going to listen to what I'm saying. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, let's take a look at the Super Conqueror. Minus 2 kilometers per hour of reverse speed. That sucks. Especially because it's only 15 to begin with, so they're ruining the reverse speed on it. Dispersion is going from 0.13 on move, 0.13 to 0.1, and it's getting slightly better. So that's good, I guess, but it already has some of the best on move in the game, so that doesn't matter. Its base dispersion is getting even better. It's getting worse aiming time, though. So essentially, just run V-stabs, because you'll aim in faster, and if the dispersion's getting better, you don't need to run, you just don't need to run for refined. It won't even matter. Oh, it's gaining DPM. Why? The Super Conch already has just shy of 3,000, so let's buff its DPM. And not only buff the DPM, not only buff its dispersion, let's also give it reactive armor. That way, it's overpowered. So remember I was talking about the AMX M4, how it's overpowered? Well, the Super Conqueror is also going to be overpowered next update. Yeah, guys, let's give one of the strongest heavies more DPM, better dispersion, and let's give it reactive. Whoa. Wow. I'm very mad with these changes. That's all I'm going to say. I'm very mad with these changes. T95E6 is getting better traverse speed. Hatch armor is going from 220 to 248 for some reason. Yo, guys, let's buff the hatch on a tank that's very balanced right now. Let's make it even better. Okay, and the tank is losing horsepower. Just leave it the way it is. Remove combat stabilization, which sucks on the tank, and leave it the way it is. But nope, we're not going to do that. T25, a pile of crap 1, minus 3 tons, 100 extra HP, and actually, those changes are nice. The T25 Pilot 1 is going to be really, really enjoyable, so I'm not going to say anything negative about that. Sheridan, getting 2 kilometers per hour top speed. It's getting worse dispersion, 5 millimeters buffed on the AP, and it's getting more alpha. Why? Why? So it's going from, what, 560 to 570? Oh, that's going to be cringe. Overall, tank's not really changing too much. It's getting slightly less accurate, and it's getting more pen and more alpha, so it's just going to be a little more cringe to deal with. Concept 1B is getting more DPM and worse on movement dispersion. Why is it getting more DPM? Just leave it the way it is. It's already pretty good. We're giving it more DPM. Why? Yeah, guys, this is a great example of wargaming just ruining the game more and more, speeding up the progression of battles. Today alone, I did a stream, and the average game ended in about 2 minutes. And let's just give heavies more DPM. Let's give them more capabilities. That way, your games end even faster. The M6 show is getting worse aiming time on both guns by about half a second and 20 extra horsepower. So not many changes there. Hellcat's getting PBR, M41 Bulldog's getting PBR. The Patton, losing a bit of DPM, reactive. Why? Why? Why is it getting reactive? And gear oil, you know. Okay, so the Patton's going to be busted, even though it already is one of the strongest tier 10s in the game. M60's getting PBR, armor changes, most likely buffed on the turret. It's losing a bit of DPM. It's losing a massive chunk of velocity. It's getting sandbags for some reason and super speed boost. I don't know what to think about the M60. We'll have to see how the armor changes and how the vehicle plays. Interesting changes. I guess we'll see. T57 Heavy is getting a slight top speed buff, slight reverse speed buff. It's getting 3 degrees worse of traverse and slightly worse aiming times. Nothing's really changing on the vehicle, to be completely honest. E3, minus 3 degrees of traverse. It's already a tank that struggles so much on traverse. It's losing 10 meters of view range. Its reload is getting better. Its aiming time's getting worse, and it's getting slightly better APCR pen. So it's getting buffed and nerfed, but really not changing much overall. I think it'll be better than what it currently is, but man, that traverse speed is really going to hurt, and we'll have to see how much that really affects the tank. E4, minus 2 degrees of traverse, minus 10 meters of view range. It's getting sandbags? Why? Why is it getting sandbags? Well, that's going to make the E4 stronger than it already is. It's going to lose a teeny bit of horsepower, but it's getting better aiming time. So essentially, it's getting buffed. Ah, yes, let's buff the E4, which is already one of the strongest tanks in Tier 10. IS-4, 2 km per hour top speed buff, who cares? 9 millimeters on the upper plate, that will be nice. It's getting more hit points. It's getting more DPM and horsepower, wow. Okay, the IS-4 might actually be really strong next update, I'm going to be honest. Like, those changes are really good for the tank, and I'm glad that they're giving it those changes. But I don't know how it's going to matter when all the other changes we've seen are happening as well. But I am happy about the IS-4 changes. The IS-7 is getting worse top speeds, going from 42 to 40. Its reverse speed is getting too worse. It's going to reverse 13 now. Its lower plate's getting worse. Its DPM's getting slightly better, and it's losing AP pen. Overall, it's getting buffed. I mean, it's gaining DPM. quite a bit. 0.3 seconds off the reload is going to be a nice amount of DPM. Traverse speed and top speed doesn't matter if it's power to weight staying the same. So it's just getting a big buff, if you ask me. I am glad they're nerfing the lower plate, though. I think that's going to make it a little bit easier to pen, and that'll be nice. Object 140 is getting slightly better dispersion. That's good. Its reload is getting longer? Why? Its aiming time's getting longer, even though it's getting more pen. Why? Oh, well, I guess the AP is getting a bit better, so maybe it won't matter as much, but they're still nerfing the tank overall. Okay. Nerf a tank that's already really struggling. Object 907 is getting PBR, slight armor adjustments. It's getting -5 degrees of traverse, more view range, and worse DPM. Again, nerfing a tank that's already really strong. Just leave it the way it is. It's already a good tank. 260, it's getting PBR. Ooh, 2 millimeters on the turret and thickest plate. Whoa, that's really going to help it. You know, Wargaming said, gee, let's give it 2 more millimeters of armor. That's really going to help. It's getting worse dispersion, slightly better reload, so it's going to have over 3k DPM, and combat stabilization. Haha, reverses at 20. Let's give it a mechanic that only works at 15 kilometers per hour. Why? Give combat stabilization to slow tanks. The mouse with combat stabilization would be amazing. But no, we're not going to give it to the mouse. Let's give it to the most mobile heavy in tier 10. 777, terrain resistance, buffed from 1.1 to 1.2 and 1.5. Okay, so it's getting slightly better terrain resistances. It's getting worse aiming time and more DPM. Yeah, why not give one of the highest DPM solid heavies better mobility and DPM? Yep, there you go. Buffing tanks that are already super strong and don't need changes. T-22 medium. It's getting more armor. Sides are getting 10 millimeters stronger. You know, a tank that already has ridiculously strong armor. Let's give it more. Dispersion's getting slightly worse. Reload's getting slightly better. Dispersion's getting worse on the turret. Traverse. Velocity's losing a little bit. Doesn't matter. It's getting tungsten. So it's gaining DPM and getting tungsten. And more armor. Well, if you wanted the OG T-22 to come back and be overpowered, it might be next update. It might be. T-100 LT is losing a bit of dispersion. Its reload is getting slightly faster. Actually, not slightly. Quite a bit of a buff for some reason. It's already a super strong tank, but we're going to buff its DPM, and we're giving it more penetration. So that's going to be really cringe. I think that it's going to be all right, though. But again, T-100 strong. Why buff it? Why do light tanks need to be able to brawl mediums? I don't know. IS-8 is losing 20 millimeters of pen. Why? The IS-8's not even that strong. I mean, it's got good DPM, but why? That's going to suck. And we have the final change, the T-62A, which is losing DPM for some reason and gaining super speed, which it doesn't need. It's already fast. It's a medium. It doesn't need super speed. So, you want my opinion on these changes? I'm not happy. Apparently, not all of the changes are out yet, so we might be seeing changes to the Boss Chatillon 25 ton and the 113 GFT, which I'm hoping are going to be getting nerfed. I've been told they will be, so I guess we'll find out. But for the current changes that I do have data on, I do not agree at all with a lot of them. I think Wargaming is out of their mind on some of these balance changes, and I really don't know what else to say. I really don't. As a player who understands what some of these changes will do and the implications of them in the battlefield, I really just, I don't get it. They're nerfing the 30B to back to what it originally was, even though its current state is great and it doesn't need to be changed. They are giving the AMX M4 reactive, even though it has 2800 HP, and they're giving it more DPM. Just what? The Super Conqueror is gaining more DPM and accuracy, and it's getting reactive? Like, what? The E50M is getting reactive and more armor and more DPM. Like, I'm actually losing my mind. I think that I'm losing my mind. The Type 71's getting more pen. It already has the highest pen in tier 10 for a heavy, and it's getting more pen. Yeah, Wargaming, that's really what it needed. You know, good job. All I'm gonna say is that if Wargaming seriously wants to be taken seriously on these balance changes, they legit need to talk to people that actually know how to play the game. I, as long with a lot of other skilled players, would love to put our input into these changes. And I just don't get why Wargaming doesn't listen to people like me. Listen to the opinions. Leave the Super Conch the way it is. Leave the AMX M4 the way it is. Give it AP standard. Like, there's so many simple changes that they don't even realize they could do that would make the game so much more enjoyable, and instead they just rebalance the entire tier. It's just like the 62A as well. Like, what are we doing? The 62A strong, and now we're gonna remove its DPM for no reason. Like, what? I don't get it. I'm really disappointed. These are, I think, the worst set of balances Wargaming has done yet. But that's my personal opinion. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.